Please like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, and please press the bell icon so that you get to know when my latest video has come. And to learn more and to find a video relevant to you, please do check out my videos list.
Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astrological. Today's topic is a contentious topic and also a slightly bewildering topic, because we are talking about a relationship which I feel is the most important relationship in our lives. It is not the most important just because of the closeness of the relationship, but because of the impact it can have on many other lives, many other areas of the person's life also, and in fact his whole life can become or can be seen through the prism of how his relationship has gone, how his or her marriage has gone. So I want to deep dive into the institution of marriage and talk a little bit about how your planetary placements could be a huge contributing factor, as well as your approach to the relationship, approach to the person may also be a huge contributing factor to you destroying your life itself, rather than making something beautiful out of it, rather than making a beautiful partnership out of it. So firstly, we know that when you approach the astrologer, maybe for a marriage, matching of horoscope between the two probable partners, then you do get to know, you do get to understand a little bit of each other's placements, what the challenges could be. But nowadays a lot of marriages are not happening on the basis of horoscope matching. A lot of relationships are coming about by virtue of the girl and boy liking each other, and then the horoscope matching plays only so much part. And even then the boy and girl are so keen to marry each other, those astrological placements don't seem to bother them and they keep them aside. Even if the astrologer tells them that, you need to be careful of this, you need to be careful of this, they say, okay, we love each other, we care for each other, we will see through our marriage. However, we also know that a number of love marriages are also breaking down or ending up in divorces, not even long-lasting marriages and then a divorce happening. The divorces are happening within a few years. So what is it that is in your astrological placements, plus and how you pursue your relationship, by virtue of which the marriage can be destroying you and your partner and many other lives. So firstly, it's very important to see whether in your horoscope there is a deniability of marriage. So if marriage is denied, then come what may, however hard you try to get into a committed, socially acceptable relationship, it may not come about. A lot of people may have made an attempt to get married, but either by virtue of being too choosy and waiting for the right person to come along, or when the right person came along, the right person did not choose you, and so you ended up not getting married. And then by hindsight you think that person was okay, or that person was somebody who I should have said yes to, and today I am not married at all. So that is one thing some of us may be facing, where there is a deniability of marriage in the horoscope, or we get into a relationship and the relationship doesn't survive beyond a few years, and then we develop cold feet because we feel that we don't want to get married again, we don't want to go through the same pain again, and we want to be doubly sure that this time around the person who I get married to has to be somebody who I can live my whole life with. I don't want to face the same challenges anymore. Now, why and how can marriage be the cause of destruction of your life? Because this is a very loaded thing. Is marriage destroying your life? Because see, the various shlokas tell us that the grihastha ashrama, or the institution of marriage and living in a domestic life with your partner, is one of the key pillars of your existence. So the grihastha ashrama is very, very important, and without going through the grihastha ashrama, moksha will not be easy, salvation will not be easy. So person has to go through the grihastha ashrama, the churn of the grihastha ashrama, before you are ready for the larger or the bigger things. And so the grihastha ashrama then becomes the pillar, or the biggest thing, or the biggest hurdle, as well as the biggest contributing factor to your salvation itself, to the moksha itself. And so it is very, very important to establish the grihastha ashrama and do it very well. However, all the time the grihastha ashrama doesn't go well. One reason could be that the placements are such that you are not supposed to have a beautiful life in a conjugal relationship, in a partnership with somebody, you are supposed to go through the churn. So some of us may have been born with such tough placements that come what may, try as we may in our relationship, the marriage doesn't go smooth, the relationship doesn't go smooth, and challenges come about. And if you have a love marriage where horoscope matching was not of the essence, then the girl's horoscope or the spouse's horoscope may be equally bad or equally challenging, and now we have 1 plus 1 not equal to 2, plus 1 and 1 is equal to 11 now, because the challenges are from both sides. If one person's horoscope is fantastic for a married life, whereas other person's horoscope is not so good, there is still some balancing factor. However, if both the horoscopes, both the people's placements are very, very tough for a married life, then the married life can become very, very bad. In fact, it can be destructive for both the people. But what is so much important about marriage, the institution of marriage? How about a live-in? How about being in a committed relationship without getting married? Now, there is a slight difference between being in a committed relationship without going through the institution of marriage, or being in a relationship with somebody and not telling others at all. So, for example, if you are in a relationship with somebody, but you're not telling the world, you've kept it hidden, the relationship is hidden, then you have activated the 7th house because you are in a relationship with somebody and you want to be with the person, or at least you are with the person in the current context, but you're keeping it hidden, which is the house of hidden bed treasures, the 12th house. So, what are you doing? When you're activating the 7th house by being in a relationship but keeping the relationship hidden, you're also activating the 12th house of losses, of challenges, of issues, of sicknesses, of hospitalization, of seclusion, moving away from everybody else also. So you may invite all of these challenges because you are activating the 7th house, but in a manner which is very hidden, very secretive, and so the 12th house is also activated. Second, the 8th house is also the house of mysteries and also the house of your external sexual organs, which means that you are activating not one house but two houses, two dusthanas, the 8th house and the 12th house, where you are in a relationship but keeping it hidden, where you are secretively having bed pleasures, but you have not acknowledged, socially you have not acknowledged the relationship. So there is a challenge when you get into that kind of a relationship. The second is where you get into a committed relationship. Socially you have told people we are together, but you are not married yet. But what are you doing? You are getting married, you are getting into a relationship, into a relationship which is a committed relationship. Socially you are committing the relationship, you are acknowledging each other. So you have activated the 7th house. And if you're living in with each other, you are together establishing a home, then you're activating the 4th house. Now, if the 4th house is not very strong and the 7th house is not strong, then you are activating the 4th house, which will also bring challenges in your material possessions, in your conveniences, because your 4th house is the house of your mental peace and domestic happiness. So, because you are establishing your domestic home, and if there are negative placements in the 4th house, then you are activating misery, you are activating unhappiness, you are activating frustrations, you are activating anxieties, because the 4th house is the house of mental peace also. So if there are negative placements there, then because of establishing the Grihastha Ashrama, the domestic home, you are activating the 4th house, and if there are negative placements, you are activating frustration, anxieties, no peace, no happiness also, because the 7th house is activated. So if you have both the 7th house and the 4th house having challenging placements, then establishing the domestic life, staying together, living with somebody together in a domestic environment will create those challenges also. Now on the other hand, your 11th house is also the house of your wishes and desires, and marriage is a desire of most of us, or almost all of us, where we want a beautiful spouse, we want a spouse which is desirable, loving spouse, caring spouse, and we feel our wishes and desires have come true when we get together with such a person. So the 11th house is also very, very important. However, the 4th house is the 6th house to the 11th house, which means that if your 11th house is also activated and has negative placements, and the 4th house being 6th to the 11th house, which means that the 6th house of enemies, challenges, issues, is also activated, and so you may bring in your grihastha ashrama or in your domestic life an enemy, because your 4th house is the 6th house to the 11th house, and both 11th and 4th house have inimical placements in them. Then you start to see spouse as an enemy, as a competitor, rather than seeing as a partner. So it's very important that all these 3 houses have very less malefic placements, or through by conjunction or aspects. If any 2 of these houses, either the 11th house or the 7th house, or both, either the 4th or the 11th, or the 4th and the 7th, or the 11th of the 4th, any of the 2 houses have negative placements in them, then the domestic life can become a big challenge, because the 4th and the 7th are connected to the domestic life. And if both the 7th and the 4th house have negative placements, negative placement by virtue of malefics being placed there, combusted planets being placed there, debilitated planets being placed there, retrograde planets being placed there, or having two malefics which are malefics to your ascendant, they placed there, or malefics aspecting both the houses. More number of malefics involved, the larger is the challenge. And so establishing the physical home in which you are living in a committed relationship can create that challenge. But how about a actual marriage ceremony? Getting married in a church or a mosque or a temple with the social gathering and all that. Then you are activating the 9th house when you are getting married to a person through a social ceremony that you are conducting. The 9th house is the house of religious ceremonies. So when you get married to somebody in a religious ceremony, you activate the 9th house also. And because you are establishing the 4th house, the domestic house, and how far is the 4th house from the 9th house? It is the 8th house from the 9th house. What is the 8th house from any house? Obstacles to that house, challenges to that house, sudden issues from that house. So through a married life, you may be activating the 4th house, because through a married life, you are activating the 7th house also, and you are activating the 4th house also. And because you are doing it through a 9th house of religious ceremony, so the 8th house elements are brought in. So before one gets married in the religious ceremony, one has to be very, very careful, because if the placements are not good, if there are more malefics involved, if the 9th house has a lot of malefics, or even 2 malefics and 1 malefic gets associated with the 4th house, then you are kicking in the challenging events or the issues or the frustrations in the married life. So in any way, whether you keep a married life hidden, whether you keep not a married life, but if you keep a relationship hidden, where the 8th house is also activated and the 12th house, then it's a challenge, because the 8th house is also the house of infidelity, or doing anything outside of the ceremony of marriage or the marriage institution of marriage. So you also bring in the bad karma. The 8th house also gets kicked in. So what happens when you are hiding a relationship? You are not only activating the 7th house, but the 8th and the 12th, and the 8th house will start giving you obstacles. So from areas which you never thought obstacles should come, challenges shouldn't come in, suddenly within a few months, sometimes weeks, after you meet somebody or you are in the relationship with somebody and you have kept it hidden so far, some or the other challenges starts coming in. Now we don't associate those challenges, those hurdles with the relationship. We think, oh, we have just started to date somebody. I have not acknowledged the relationship with many people. Right now only she and I know. Maybe just few people have an inkling that there may be something wrong between them, but you have not acknowledged the relationship to even your near and dear ones. So then the 8th house of obstacles and the 12th house of challenges and issues and losses is getting kicked in. If you are getting married, if you are getting into a committed relationship, in a live-in relationship without getting married, that is also the 8th house. That is also the 11th house, the karma bhav, the desires, wishes and desires. So you are activating the 11th house also. 11th house has negative placements. 4th house is the 6th house to the 11th house. Those challenges come in. And in a married life, religious ceremony, 8th house to the 9th house is the 4th house. So those obstacles, the challenges are also coming in. So it's very, very important, whatever kind of relationship you are in. If in that kind of a relationship, there are more negative placements associated with those houses, like I said, 4th and the 11th house, or 4th or the 7th house, or 7th and the 11th house, then you will be facing challenges, you will be facing issues. And one of the important elements of marriage is that marriage is not about one person. And so it's very, very critical that you know what you are getting into. Now, if marriage is denied in your horoscope, then you may get into a relationship, but the relationship breaks off within a few weeks, months, maximum 1 or 2 years. Then you get into another one, and then that also doesn't seem to suffice, or that relationship doesn't seem to survive, and that also breaks because you're not supposed to get the blessings or the happiness from the Grihastha ashrama. The domestic peace is denied to you, the domestic happiness is denied to you. You keep trying to get in, what will happen? You will face challenges and issues also, and hence one has to be very careful before we get into the institution of marriage, because are we unnecessarily creating problems for us when none existed earlier? Why is it some people seem to be very happy-go-lucky, they are doing very well, they get married, and within a year or two all hell breaks loose? Sometimes you don't even identify the person. You think, is this the same person who I met before marriage? He used to be very happy, who used to be all the time talking good things, great things in life. He or she wanted to do this and that. Now, today they seem to be so frustrated, they seem to be so cynical, they seem to be so distraught. What's happened to this person? I can't even recognize this person. Now, astrological placements are one thing. If the malefics which are involved in your 4th house or your 7th house or 11th house are strong malefics, for example like a Rahu, a Sun or a Mars, or all the three by virtue of being placed, ruling that house or aspecting that house or conjunct with the lords of these houses, then what happens? This can be a very, very tough placement, a tough combination. Sun is a very challenging planet or a planetary entity for married life. The reason being is the Sun wants to be the leader, Sun wants to rule others. People who have Sun related to or placed in the 7th house or placed even in the 4th house, usually they will have some strong personality differences with this spouse. There will be some part of life which will always be missing, which will always be burnt up. They will never get that satisfactory from the partner. That area of life, that attribute of life, that attribute of married life, they will never get satisfied. They will always feel missing in that particular area, whether it's romance, whether it's intimacy, whether it is the feeling of being cared for, whether it is the feeling of being understood, whether it is the feeling of somebody empathizes with you or even cares for you. There will be one thing which you will always feel missing. And because Sun is the leader, the person wants to rule. The person feels that I am correct, you have to listen to me all the time. I told you this, then why didn't you do this? That's one. If Rahu gets involved, what is Rahu? Rahu is greed. Rahu is very high expectations. So if Rahu is also involved along with Sun, now the Sun is the leader. He wants the other person to do everything that he or she wants, and they have high expectations from you. I want you to do this and you better do this. And big expectations and not ready to give in and want to rule you. And third, if Mars gets involved, high expectations, leadership, personality issues, ego issues, narcissistic behavior, and Mars, violence, aggression, name calling, finger pointing, screaming, shouting, arguments, frustrations, anxieties, huge challenges if any to get involved. And if all three get involved in the mix, this is a deadly combination for disastrous results, not just destructive, disastrous results for the couple. So one needs to be very, very careful when gets into a marriage. If you're already married, then deep dive into and see where you are and how your placements are, because if there are serious challenges in your marriage, there could be something which is amiss. So if you're knowing what is amiss, then there is some chance that there is some curative thing that you may also be able to do, whether in your personality or by virtue of trying to understand the person or sitting and talking with each other, because see, these are our placements, we need to be careful. Otherwise, being blindsided, you may never know what is the challenge in your marriage, and you may be just sailing along, facing one storm or the other. Rahu can create tremendous malefic intent in the other person, sometimes in us also. And so, when you get married, or if you are in a relationship and Rahu gets into the mix in some way or the other, then what happens that in some area of our life, we will have high expectations where we are not ready to compromise at all. Especially when we feel we have compromised so much on others. And it's like this. For example, if there is a lady who wants to keep a house spick and span all the time, very, very neat and tidy. The guy who she is married is very, very uncouth in his mannerism and how he keeps the house. So there is a big challenge. the guy may still be putting in the effort, but it may not be enough. And for the woman, it may be that this person is dirty, keep the house shabby, and that person the guy must be thinking, I am doing enough. So it requires just one thing to go wrong, where the woman says things that I've contributed so much to keep the marriage afloat, I've compromised so much. The man may be thinking, I've changed so much before marriage, I was so worse, I've done so many more things. That itself is a huge contribution for them. Everything else is, they put it at the side. So if you have huge demands on the other person, even in one area of life, and if the person is just not able to satisfy or do enough there, then at the back of the mind, unconsciously, subconsciously, there is always this challenge that this person is not good enough. I have sustained with this person for so long, nobody else would be able to do, and I'm unhappy with this person. Why did I ever get into this relationship? Is there something that I can do about it? And from that question, is there something that I can do about it? Various things may branch out, including the idea that I no more want to be in this relationship with this person. I can do better. The other is when you have a bad Rahu, along with any other malefic involved, whether it is Mars or even with Saturn. Saturn and Rahu can be a bad combination, a bad conjunction, a bad aspect on the 7th house and the 4th house, or Rahu plays in the Lagna, Rahu plays in the 4th house, Saturn plays in the 7th house, or Saturn aspecting the 7th house, or Rahu aspecting the 7th house or the 4th house. Then what it can create is, it can create you high expectations where you're comparing your spouse to somebody else. For example, a woman comparing her spouse with her father or a brother or friend's spouse or a sister's spouse, and thinking that they are so good, my sister's spouse is so good, or my boss is so good as a husband to his wife. Why am I so unhappy? Why did I miss out? So when you start comparing and you look outside of your husband, of your spouse, looking at other people comparing, then there is also a chance that you may also transgress the line, and that's where the 4th house of the Grihastha Ashrama, which is a very sanctity oriented one, may collapse, and that brings in negativity. Anything that is to do, anything that you do to spoil the 4th house and the 7th house, or either, then you attract the negativity. You attract challenges in property, you attract losses, you lose money, you invest in some speculative venture, you lose that. Why? 5th house connect. 5th house is also the house of romance. In a married life, you need to be able to show your love and affection to the other person. If you're failing to do that, then you're spoiling the 5th house, because the 5th house is not only responsible for your speculative investments but also romance. You will spoil one area of that house very, very badly. Other areas of that house also get spoiled. If you spoil the Grihastha Ashrama, the domestic life, badly, you trouble your spouse, then the material aspects of the 4th house bring in challenges. Why is it when we have a fight with a spouse, the whole day sometimes seems to go bad? We don't seem to get along with anybody that day, because the married life of the spouse is not only the 7th house, everybody else who you connect on a day-to-day basis is the 7th house, but your spouse constitutes almost 50% of the 7th house. So when you're spoiling the 7th house in the morning with having a tiff with your spouse, because the 7th house is also everybody else that you meet on a day-to-day basis, so whoever you meet on that day, most of your interactions seem to go down the drain. You're not able to concentrate, you're not able to respond to people. That bad morning is through the day having an effect on you. And when you go home, you don't want to sometimes go home because you don't feel like going home, because you don't want to face the whole situation. So you dread going home sometimes. Now, if you know your placements well and good, but I have seen that many times even knowing placements may not help. I know an astrologer couple, both of them are good astrologers and both of them I know, and yet sometimes they don't seem to get along, and because I'm a family friend and I know what goes on in their life, so sometimes I ask them that if I'm asking the guy, you know your spouse, you know her so well, you're an astrologer, then why can't you guys face it? And he says, yeah, because of her, because she has these placements, she's always fighting with me. And she says, yeah, but he has these placements in his horoscope. He is not able to be the loving husband. So in spite of knowing each other's issues and challenges, in spite of being astrologers sometimes, you may face it, because it could also be a part of your karma. If your karma intends you to give up the karmic debt, if you have to give up the karmic debt, then you have to face the challenges in your married life, you have to face the issues, the turmoil, the bad blood, the frustrations, the sadness, the losses, then you will go through it. So if you see that your 4th house, the 7th house are very, very badly afflicted, including your 11th house, then be a little careful whether you want to get into a married life or not, what kind of a relationship you want to get in, whether you want to socially get married or not, socially acknowledge marriage or not, you want to get married to a religious ceremony or not, or you want to just do a court marriage, 2 people sign a document like a contract, then you socially accept and you will start to live with each other without activating the 9th house. So be very careful what kind of relationship you are in. If you are in a bad relationship, if you are in a tough relationship, understand your placements, because those placements, if you are not being true to what the Grihastha Ashrama requires, what the married life requires, what the 7th house requires, what the 4th house requires, then your relationship with most of the people will also be spoiled, and or getting a material benefit, getting the happiness, being happy mentally and having the peace of mind will go. Because the 4th house is not only your domestic married life, the 4th house is also your happiness and your marriage. So be a little careful who you are getting married to if you are not married yet. If you are married, be a little careful. Look at your placements one more, understand your placements more, sit down and talk to each other, or lower your expectations, especially in that area where the spouse is just not able to contribute more, do more. So be more patient, be more understanding. If you have already gone through tough marriage, or you are on the eve of a breakup, or you have already gone through a breakup and you are contemplating another relationship, if you have already gone through a bad relationship, then think 10 times before you get into a relationship, because you could maybe be bringing in one destructive wave after the other. The Grihastha Ashrama is the most important ashrama, you have to go through it. But if your Grihastha Ashrama is fraught with many negative challenges, it's better to invest less in there and to think twice whether you want to be, whether you're better off alone, whether you're better off single than being with somebody. So think through it. It's an important institution. It is not. It's not a compulsory institution. It's not a compulsory institution that you have to go through it. Better that you go through the Grihastha Ashrama. But if you're going to be destructive in your life, or you are going to invite destruction in your life because the placements are such, the placements are such, and there is less chance of you being happy in a married life, then it's better to stay away from that institution. Focus your energy somewhere else. Make some larger goal to be your goal, rather than chasing something which is fraught with destruction. So guys, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the link given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.